Please welcome to eTown, Dr. Mikki McComb-Kobza. You. Mikki, welcome to eTown.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Did I make that up about Jaws and you being scared about all that stuff?
Nope, it's true.
It's true.
It's absolutely true.
And what flipped the switch for you? How did you go from being terrified to being fascinated of sharks?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So I grew up here in Colorado, and in 1975, in the summer of 1975, I went to go see the movie Jaws at the Cooper Theater on Colorado Boulevard with my older brother. And I went into that theater, saw the movie, and walked out of there changed forever. I was absolutely terrified of sharks.
Wow.
And I went home, and I thought sharks were under my bed, under the kitchen table. I tried out for the swim team, and I made it because, I thought sharks were coming out of the drain. So I had a big shark problem. And, the only way that I knew to overcome that was to read about sharks. And luckily, my parents had an animal encyclopedia set, and I devoured everything I could about sharks, and I fell in love with them. And that fascination has never left me.
I've never heard of an animal encyclopedia set. That sounds really cool. And of course, studying about sharks led you into the entirety of ocean, marine life, and health, and so on.
Absolutely. I mean, I use the story of sharks as a hook to really explain to people what's happening in the ocean today. They are but one of a multitude of symptoms of things that are happening out there. And sharks are like dinosaurs. They're really exciting, and people can relate to them. And so to tell the story of the shark, what's happening to them, really allows me, the opportunity to talk about the ocean at large and some of the issues that are facing the ocean and how each and every one of us can be part of the solution.
So education is a big part of what you're doing.
It really is. I've been a researcher for over 20 years, and I publish in the scientific literature, and I love that aspect of what I do. But I know that at the end of the day, really getting out there to the public and to really open people's eyes to the wonder of what's out there. And, sharks are older than the dinosaurs. They're older than trees. And to be able to understand what it's like to look into their eyes, you're looking back in time as to all of the amazing adaptations that have shaped these animals. And it's an honor to be able to go scuba diving and swimming with them. It's incredible. So to share that wonder is a privilege. And young people, which are our future, it resonates well with them.
Yeah. And are these young people science-oriented or just kids in general?
I think every kid, every one of us is a scientist. We ask questions, we're inquisitive, we want to know things, and so everyone is a scientist. I think we just, sometimes we lose that a little bit in our lives, but, I think we all have it, and we're all curious. We want to know, and the natural world is the most it's the easiest thing to connect to.
Yeah. And it's never gone terribly wrong where a kid has gotten gobbled or anything like that.
Nope. No. I've taken a lot of students with me. We scuba dive with sharks. We measure them with lasers. Kids come up after a scuba dive with sharks, and they're hooting and hollering, and they're going crazy, and they thought, oh, I was going to be really scared, and they're not, and they're excited, and that switch turns, and they become advocates, and they become the people on the airplane that tell the stewardess what they did, and the stewardess is like, no, you didn't. And they're like, oh, yeah, I really did. I went swimming with the sharks, and it's just great. It's great to see that.
That's so cool. And what is happening with shark populations in general?
Well, what you might not know is sharks have been around for over 440 million years, and there are over 500 different species of sharks swimming in the ocean today. And unfortunately, about a third of those species are threatened with extinction. And the main culprit is overfishing. And so really it's our charge now to understand that sharks are, similar to the wolves of Yellowstone, which we know when we remove wolves from Yellowstone, it changed the entire ecosystem because they're keystone species. They have a disproportionate impact on the system. Well, sharks are the wolves of the sea. And so they are incredibly important, and that's why it's so critical for us to work towards their conservation.
Yeah. In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. My guest is Dr. Mikki McComb-Kobza. I know you're also, there's so much to talk about, so I'm gonna have to be speedy about this, I guess. But you're also working with microplastics and helping educate kids about that. And that's throughout all waterways, not just in the ocean, right?
Yeah, so one of the big issues facing the ocean is plastic pollution. So we probably all heard about the garbage patch and, that we've got tons and tons of plastics entering the ocean. But what you might not know is that we also have this issue right here in the Rocky Mountains. And so I started a program about 3 years ago where we're taking high school students out and they're looking in Colorado rivers and streams for microplastics. So plastic never breaks down. It just goes into smaller and smaller pieces. It never disappears. And so when we go into the streams here in Colorado and the sediment, we find microplastics and microfiber in nearly every sample we collect. And this is in 8 counties across Colorado. It's never been done before. We even find it in the snow pack, the snow melt. So it's a disturbing thing, but the great thing is it's something that we can all work on to change, and it's a way for us to understand the issues facing the ocean today. And really, it's about our consumption and the choices that we make every day. And one of the great things tomorrow, actually, I'm going to the Denver Museum, and what we're going to be doing is having those students that were part of that project report out all that they've discovered in all of the different Colorado rivers and streams. And one of the things that we do is we share products and lifestyle choices that they and their families can make to really make a difference, because that's where it starts with the individuals. And so we're excited to be able to do that.
As consumers, just buying different things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, washer sheets, things that go into your dryer, all those kinds of things are really important, because if we all do it, then we're going to put pressure on those companies to make a change. So it's great.
Yeah. And of course, this is a headwater state, so our waters travel a long distance and wind up elsewhere. I know that we're talking about all kinds of not dark, but just, things that are declining largely because of our impact as humans and consumers. Anything good going on out there? Any good stories happening out there in the oceans?
Well, there is. This is kind of an exciting thing. So for the last 3 years, I've been working on great white sharks on the northeast coast of the Atlantic, and all the way from Canada all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And great white sharks are sort of the iconic fish that you think about, the sharks you think of. And what we found is their numbers are increasing. And that's because the United States has really good management. And the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which was enacted in the 70s, has allowed seals to really rebound, and that's their food. And so in the Northeast Atlantic, we're seeing white shark populations come back to healthy levels. And although people may be a little bit nervous about that, it's a great
right back
thing.
To Jaws, exactly.
It's exactly right back to Jaws. But it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have these animals back in the numbers in which they should be, and it's a trend for us to say that good management is possible. The ocean is resilient if we give it a chance.
Yeah. And that means that the ecosystem is healthier. If the sharks are back, that means the entirety of the balance of that ecosystem is better. And so ultimately that means fisheries will come back in those areas too?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about biodiversity. And when we really fight for biodiversity, in the end, we're helping ourselves.
Yeah. And so you bring a lot of kids out to these programs. How many kids have you had in your program so far?
Well, I'm happy to say that, our small ragtag organization, which has been around since 2014, we've been able to serve over 350,000 students with our programs. And so we work hard. Thank you.
Wow. And for anybody listening who wants to learn more, is there a website where people can go and see what you're up to?
Absolutely. You can keep track of us at oceanfirstinstitute.org. And we're also on social media. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. So check us out.
oceanfirstinstitute.org.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for sharing the information. Once again, my guest, Dr. Mikki McComb-Kobza, Director of Ocean First Institute. Educator, explorer, advocate. Thank you, Mikki.
Thank you.